What if I told you that some people feel lighter, calmer, and even happier the moment a party ends and the room empties out? Sounds harsh, right? But it's not about being cold-hearted or antisocial. It's about self-preservation. This isn't misanthropy in the dark, villainous sense. It's something deeper, quieter, and much more common than you think. It's about those of us who feel emotionally exhausted by too much human interaction, even if we care about the people we're with. We're not talking about people who isolate themselves in a cabin for 10 years to avoid society. We're talking about the ones who smile politely at brunch, nod through small talk, and then go home and collapse from social burnout. They're not angry at the world, they're just tired of people. There's a difference. And if you've ever sat in your car for 20 minutes just to mentally recover from a group gathering, then you already know exactly what I'm talking about. You're not broken, you're not weird, and you're definitely not alone. Whether it's the psychology of introverts, social anxiety, trust issues, or just plain people fatigue, there's a real psychological reason why human interaction is draining for some and energizing for others. Stick around, because we're about to unpack the 5 hidden types of people who don't hate humanity, but secretly prefer peace over people, and chances are, you're one of them. The peace seeker. They're the kind of person who doesn't mind being left out of weekend plans. In fact, they feel relieved when someone cancels. The peace seeker isn't avoiding others because they're bitter. It's because their nervous system thrives in calm, not chaos. Crowds, loud conversations, small talk, they all feed into introvert burnout. For them, solitude isn't loneliness, it's recovery. It's how they protect their peace and guard their mental health. Many peace seekers grew up in noisy, overwhelming environments, maybe a chaotic household or a school where blending in was the only way to survive. Over time, their minds learned to equate quiet with safety. That's why they now get people fatigue so quickly, even with those they love. It's not rejection, it's emotional exhaustion. They need more downtime to process the world, especially after being around others for too long. You might notice they always seem to be recharging, canceling plans, taking solo walks, or disappearing at parties. And while others might label them antisocial, what's really happening is psychological self-regulation. A peace seeker knows that overstimulation leads to a mental crash, so they manage their energy like others manage their money, intentionally. But what happens when avoidance turns into emotional detachment? The burned empath. Some people don't just listen to others, they absorb them. Their emotions, their problems, their moods. The burned empath is the person everyone turns to for advice, venting, or emotional support. But nobody notices when they go silent. They're deeply sensitive, often to the point of feeling drained after a single conversation. Why? Because they internalize everything. Human interaction is draining when your mind treats every problem like it's your own. This type often struggles with introvert struggles layered over emotional boundaries. Maybe they learned to be hyper-attuned in childhood, watching volatile parents or stepping in as a peacemaker. As adults, they keep that pattern alive, constantly overgiving and under-receiving. Eventually, it catches up with them. They hit a wall called introvert burnout, and suddenly they vanish from social circles, not out of hate, but pure survival. You'll know a burned empath when they ghost group chats, ignore calls, or cancel plans last minute. Not because they're flaky, but because they're fried. They might say things like, "I just need to be alone," or "I can't deal with people today." That's not moodiness, it's social exhaustion. These folks often feel guilty for needing space, even though it's what keeps them sane. But what about those who never had anyone to trust in the first place? The betrayed soul. This person didn't start off distant. In fact, they may have once been open, friendly, maybe even the life of the party. But somewhere along the way, something or someone broke that trust. Maybe it was a best friend who shared a secret, a partner who manipulated them, or a group that rejected them when they were vulnerable. That betrayal flipped a switch. Now they avoid social interaction not out of dislike, but out of self-defense. They live with a quiet belief: people always let me down. It's not dramatic, it's just a conclusion formed by experience. These folks often have avoidant personality traits, not because they're cold, but because they've been burned. They struggle to open up, to let people in, to relax in groups. They'd rather be alone than risk being disappointed again. For them, Solitude versus loneliness isn't even a question. Solitude wins every time. You might hear them say, "I just don't trust easily anymore," or "I'm tired of people." They often mask it with humor or sarcasm, but underneath, there's pain. Introvert psychology tells us this isn't hate, it's protection. These people have walls, not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. But here's the twist. Not everyone who isolates has been betrayed. Some are simply wired differently. The quiet strategist. This type isn't shy, they're selective. The quiet strategist doesn't jump into conversations or crowds, not because they can't, but because they don't want to. They study people, observe patterns. They know that most social energy is wasted on surface-level chatter, and that drains them. They'd rather spend time in their head, or with a book, or deep in a one-on-one convo that actually means something. Small talk? That's their version of nails on a chalkboard. Many quiet strategists were labeled weird or too intense growing up. But what people misunderstood as awkwardness was actually depth. They process things deeply, ideas, emotions, even silence. So when someone asks why they prefer being alone, it's not about antisocial behavior. It's about mental health, focus, and the ability to recharge without distraction. These people aren't rude, they're efficient with their energy. You'll see this type in jobs where they don't have to pretend. Writers, analysts, coders, creators. They might love pets more than people, not because animals are better, but because they're simpler. No masks, no drama, just presence. For the quiet strategist, human interaction is draining when it lacks depth. But what about the ones who don't just want quiet? They need it to function. The sensory sensitive. For the sensory sensitive, being around people isn't just mentally exhausting, it's physically overwhelming. Their brain registers every little thing, the way someone chews, overlapping voices, bright lights, shifting moods. It's not something they can turn off. This isn't about being dramatic or high maintenance, it's about neurological wiring. When you're hypersensitive, even a coffee shop can feel like Times Square. That's why they avoid crowds like their life depends on it, because sometimes it does. Many of these individuals fall on the highly sensitive person, HSP spectrum, and their experience of the world is amplified. Loud parties? A nightmare. Office chatter? Torture? Group events? Overstimulating. They often experience social burnout quicker than others, not because they're fragile, but because their threshold for stimulation is simply lower. The brain gets flooded with input, and that leads to emotional exhaustion. This is where introvert struggles go beyond personality and into biology. You'll find sensory sensitives curating their environments with almost surgical precision. Noise-canceling headphones, soft lighting, limited social media, pets over people, these aren't quirks. They're survival tools. And while society might call them antisocial or distant, they're really just trying to function without falling apart. The world demands extroversion, but for some, peace isn't a luxury, it's a requirement. So there you have it. 5 powerful, deeply human types of people who don't actually hate others. They just feel better when they're not constantly surrounded by them. Each one of them, from the peace seeker to the sensory sensitive, isn't broken or antisocial. They're just trying to protect their peace in a world that rarely pauses. This isn't about judgment, it's about understanding. Because behind every quiet person is a loud story you've never heard. Now ask yourself, which one of these types do you connect with the most? Have you ever felt like you were the only one who preferred silence over small talk, or felt guilty for needing alone time? What if your so-called antisocial behavior was actually your mind asking for rest? And if you don't relate, here's a better question. How do you treat the ones who do? Drop a comment below and let's talk. Hit the like button if this helped you understand yourself, or someone else, a little better. And if you want to keep diving into the psychology of introverts, emotional boundaries, and the hidden strengths of solitude, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because here, we go deeper every day.